Hi, good afternoon, and it's video time again. It's another really lovely sunny day in Leicestershire, and I hope you're all still enjoying this lovely weather, getting out in the garden, doing bits and pieces in the garden, and doing whatever you can to keep yourself amused during this corona crisis. Today I thought we'd talk about something slightly different. I thought we'd talk about how we can actually use gardens and the natural world to our advantage when we're feeling anxious, when we're feeling like we need a little bit of reassurance. To this end, we're going to talk about what's called grounding. A lot of our patients in the military suffer greatly with anxiety. They suffer with post-traumatic stress disorder. They suffer hypervigilance. What that means is they're always constantly scanning around to make sure that they're safe, always looking out to make sure that nothing is going to come and hurt them. All these issues can really take a toll on your daily life. Particular a technique we're going to talk about today, I have used to great effect with a friend of mine who suffered a massive panic attack one day in his garden. And the basic idea of grounding is to take you away from whatever's going on in your head and to connect you back with the here and now, with sitting here in this beautiful garden. So let's imagine that we are having a panic attack, we're having a flashback, it's taking us back to somewhere where we really don't want to be and where we feel uncomfortable. What we need to do is make ourselves reconnect with where we are now. So the first thing you want to do is look for 5 things that you can see around you. I've sat in the garden, it's quite easy. Where I'm sat now, I've got a beautiful Philadelphus in front of me, I've got a slightly dead Robinia tree growing behind me, I've got some forget-me-nots growing here. Not entirely exciting, but I can see my collection of wheelie bins over here. And in the distance I can see the beautiful lime trees that are coming into leaf. So immediately that's making me look, it's taking me away from what's going on in my head, and it's making me scan around to see what I can see. That on its own probably isn't going to make a lot of difference to us. What you then need to do is connect yourself in a more physical way to what it is that's surrounding you. The best thing you can do this is to look for 4 things that you can actually touch around you, preferably 4 things that have different textures. So, you know, for instance, grab hold of, I don't know if you can see it, this euphorbia here. Run your hands through it, you can feel its sort of slightly rubbery texture. Again, going back to my dear friend, the dead Robinia tree behind me, actually run your hands up and down the trunk. You'll feel the bark, get the texture of the bark. There are other things you can also do. It doesn't just have to be your hands you can touch with, you can use your feet. So take your shoes and socks off and scrunch your toes up in the grass. That's a great one to do. That really does literally ground you and connect you into the here and now. And finally, another thing you could do is just find a patch of soil and just connect with it. Just properly plant yourself in it, which will really, really ground you. And it will start to make you focus on where you are rather than what your head is telling you. The next thing after that is to just sit and see if you can hear 3 different things. Where I'm sat today, I can most definitely hear the wind blowing in the trees. It's quite a strong breeze blowing today. I can hear the wind. Thank you. Here it comes in. Purely by luck, the church bells have started to chime, so that's my second thing that I can hear. And in the distance, being as it is such a lovely day, I've got a gentleman across the road who's cutting his grass. So now we really are, we're starting to be aware of our surroundings. We can see it, we can feel it, we can hear it. The next thing you can do in a garden, and it's not always easy because this is a fairly seasonal one, but you want to look for things that you can actually smell. So you want to try and find 2 things that you can smell. In the garden at the moment, I can smell the cut grass being cut across the way there. But you've got any number of flowers that you will be able to go up to. Lots of different shrubs have different smells. Just even go up and crunch a leaf. Chances are it will have a smell. And again, what this is doing is distracting your mind from what's actually going on, and it's connecting you back to where you are now. The last thing that you're going to look for is something you can taste. Again, this is not always going to be easy depending on where you are and what you're doing, but most gardens during the summer are going to have fruit, vegetables of some kind, even if it's just blackberries growing wild in the hedge or some alpine strawberries growing in your paving. You can eat, there are even flowers you can eat, marigold, calendulas, nasturtiums, salvias, anything like that that you can just taste. I mean, even, to be honest, even just a blade of grass. It's not going to do you any harm. It's not got the best of taste, but at least it's focusing your mind on taking it away from what's going on in your head. So in a very broad sense, that is how we use grounding. So you look to see if you can see 5 things. You see if you can find 4 different things that you can feel, that you can touch, 3 different things that you can hear, things that you can smell, and something that you can taste. Now, I know these sound very simplistic, but they do actually work. The case I mentioned at the start of the video involves a friend of mine. He's an ex-RAF pilot. He was having a very bad afternoon, and he had a panic attack in his garden. I was sat there with him. It was one of the first times I'd had to deal with anything like this. Didn't really know what to do, and he was stood right next to a great big rosemary bush, very smelly rosemary bush. So I thought, well, I need to make him contact with the rosemary bush. As I stood up to talk to him, I accidentally managed to push him into the rosemary bush, which wasn't intended, but the shock of actually pushing him in the rosemary bush kind of brought him back to where he was, rather than where he was in his head. Couple that with the smell, with the scent. Rosemary is a very pungent herb. It kind of focused his attention as to, right, I'm back in my garden in Surrey and I'm not wherever on earth his head was telling him. After that point, he, in fact, as far as I'm aware, he still does carry a small bag of lavender with him. Rosemary, sorry, wrong herb. It may have been rosemary, it may have been lavender. To be honest, now I'm not quite sure. But anyway, the point is, it was a very smelly herb, and he always carried the bag with him, so that if he was ever having a bad time, he could sniff this very strong smelling aromatic herb, and it would take him back to that pleasant afternoon we spent in his garden. Well, as pleasant as it can be when you've got some idiot pushing you in a rosemary bush. And that is kind of how easy grounding can be. So next time you're in the garden, just sit and look around you. And I think this is something we're not very good at. We don't look around, we don't notice things. So by doing this grounding exercise, I guarantee it will actually put you more in contact with your garden and make you a lot more aware of what's going on. So hopefully you've enjoyed this. I know I've made a few mistakes in the making of this today, but never mind. It's I think you get the idea. So I will be back again on Thursday, where we'll be talking a little bit further about how gardening is good for our mental health, how being in a garden is going to naturally relax us and make us feel at ease. So until then, take care everybody, stay safe, stay well, and I will see you on Friday. All the best.